Are you serious? Are you serious? Honduras is coming apart at the seams. Honduras declares its curfew as the protest over the vote count continues. Matter of fact, the Honduras government imposed a curfew starting Friday and ordered the security forces to move against protesters blocking roads, bridges, escalating a political crisis over the disputed count of votes from the presidential election over the past weekend. The announcement late Friday came what began as a peaceful demonstration by supporters of the opposition candidate, Salvador Narcella. But it turned violent, folks, in some places. The government said the curfew would go into effect for 10 days, during which time anyone found outdoors between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. would be arrested. The move by the government of President Juan Orlando Hernandez, who is seeking a second term, prompted fears that he might try to find a way to stay in office even if the final vote count went against him. While this is going on, a former Justice and Defense Minister said on Twitter that an issue such as a decree while votes are being counted is the same thing as a coup d'etat. Now, despite the government announcement, the opposition planned to resume negotiations with the country's election commission on Saturday amid at restarting the stalled ballot count and reviewing the results. The commission, who is dominated by Mr. Hernandez's allies in the Conservative National Party, has behaved erratically since the polls closed on Sunday of last weekend. It waited almost 10 hours to even release the first results, which showed Mr. Narcella ahead by 5 points, with 58% of the polling places counted. But the count then stalled until Tuesday afternoon, and after it resumed, Mr. Hernandez steadily closing the gap and eventually overtook Mr. Narcella. The shift led to allegations that the commission was counting only those polling places where Mr. Hernandez had won and was setting aside for special review the tally sheets from areas where he had lost. The commission agreed to count the remaining tally sheets under pressure from international observers. In a sign of how widespread distrust the Electoral Commission has become, Honduras conservative main business groups joined the call for a full count. At the end, there's a lack of confidence in the commission from all sectors, said Rodolfo Pastor, a strategist from the left-wing Alliance Against the Dictatorship, Mr. Narcella's coalition. The perception that there was a manipulation has been created, and the opposition has asked that the Electoral Commission to disclose vote database, and it demanded a recount in 3 departments where turnout was said to be about 20% points higher than the average elsewhere in the country. Unless those demands are met, the opposition alliance said it would not take part in the last stage of the count. That would endorse fraud, and Mr. Pastor wrote in a text message. So protesters have blocked the roads and bridges for a second day this past Friday to demand an impartial count. In some places, they burned tires, filling the air with thick black smoke. There was some looting. Security forces clashed with protesters in several places, leading to injuries. Cars were torched, glass was broken, bottles were thrown, bullets were fired. It is getting ugly. And so it looks like the president of Honduras was going to lose this vote. Looks like he was losing. And then all of a sudden, the game changed, the approach changed, and the numbers started to change. And the people have begun to rise up. This is an ugly situation, could get way out of control in Honduras. And remember, Venezuela, they're already out of control. If we start seeing more of these nations in Central and South America collapsing under corruption, look at Colombia, look at Mexico, this could spread across this part of the world. You've got regimes that are willing and cartels and ISIS and even the Russians who are willing to participate in taking a piece of the pie here in Central and South America. We're going to keep a close eye on all of this tonight. It's going to be a big show tonight. Don't miss it. It starts at 7 p.m. Eastern at my website at paulbegleyprophecy.com. New live stream, Roku satellite television, Periscope, and radio lines, and yes, on this YouTube channel. Are you serious?